Welcome back to the electrifying world of late-night television, where the unexpected collides with the unforgettable. And tonight, we're diving headfirst into a moment that has become the stuff of legend, a heated exchange on The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson that left the audience gasping and the internet ablaze. Picture this, it's a crisp evening in Los Angeles, the studio lights buzzing with that familiar hum, the band warming up with a cheeky riff on some forgotten 80s hit, and the crowd, a mix of wide-eyed fans and jaded industry types, settling into their seats with cocktails in hand. Craig Ferguson, the Scottish charmer with a devilish grin and a wit sharper than a kilt pin, strides onto the stage, his impeccable suit tailored just so, ready to unleash his signature blend of absurdity and insight. He's no stranger to controversy after all. This is the man who once interviewed a skeleton sidekick and turned monologue into performance art. But tonight, his guest is none other than Donald J. Trump, the brash real estate mogul turned political firebrand, whose golden hair gleams under the spotlights like a beacon of unapologetic ambition. Trump enters with that trademark swagger, his tie a slash of red against a crisp white shirt, shaking hands with the enthusiasm of a man closing a billion-dollar deal. The applause is polite but charged, whispers rippling through the crowd like electricity before a storm. Ferguson kicks things off light, as he always does, with a joke about Trump's latest tower piercing the clouds like an ego-made manifest, and Trump laughs a booming, genuine bark that echoes off the rafters. But beneath the banter, there's a current, a subtle undercurrent of tension, because everyone knows Trump doesn't suffer fools, and Ferguson, well, he's the fool who asks the questions no one else dares. As the cameras roll, the theme music fades, and the interview begins in earnest, with Ferguson leaning forward, eyes twinkling with mischief, probing into Trump's world of deals, debts, and dreams of the White House. Trump, ever the showman, dives in with anecdotes from his boardroom battles, painting pictures of cutthroat negotiations where he always comes out on top, his voice rising and falling like a roller coaster of bravado. The audience chuckles at the right moments, but Ferguson's responses are laced with that Scottish dry humor, a gentle prod here, a sly twist there, questioning the veracity of some of Trump's more extravagant claims. It's all fun and games at first, Trump touting his golf courses as the eighth wonder, Ferguson quipping about the sand traps being metaphors for political quicksand. But then, like a match to dry tinder, the exchange ignites. Ferguson, never one to shy from the edge, brings up a recent scandal, something about unpaid contractors on one of Trump's Atlantic City ventures. His tone casual but his eyes locked like lasers. Trump stiffens, the smile fading just a fraction, and retorts with a dismissal that's pure vintage Donald. Fake news, he calls it, before launching into a tirade about the media's witch hunt against successful men like himself. The crowd shifts uncomfortably, the laughter dying into a hush, as Ferguson presses on, his accent thickening with intensity, challenging Trump on the human cost behind the headlines. What follows is a verbal fencing match, thrusts and parries flying faster than the audience can process, with Trump pounding the desk for emphasis, his face reddening under the lights, veins bulging like rivers on a map of fury. Ferguson, unflappable, counters with facts wrapped in sarcasm, his laughter now a weapon, disarming yet deadly. The band members exchange glances, the crew holds their breath, and in that suspended moment, the studio transforms from a cozy chat show into a coliseum of clashing titans. Trump's rage builds like a summer squall, his words tumbling out in a torrent and accusations of bias, threats of lawsuits veiled as jokes, all delivered with that unmistakable New York growl. Ferguson absorbs it all, his retorts quicksilver, turning Trump's barbs back on him with the precision of a surgeon. The exchange escalates, voices overlapping in a cacophony that drowns out the prompter, the audience torn between shock and thrill, some cheering, others frozen in disbelief. It's raw, it's real, it's the kind of television that doesn't happen anymore, where boundaries blur and truths are laid bare under the glare of unfiltered light. As the segment hurtles toward commercial, Trump's finger jabs the air, his final words a thunderclap of indignation, while Ferguson rises, ever the gentleman, to shake hands, his grin unwavering. But oh, the storm has just begun, and as the lights dim for the break, the whispers start. Did that really happen? The feed cuts, but the energy lingers, a palpable buzz that promises the second half will be legendary. Backstage, producers scramble, executives pace, wondering if they've captured lightning in a bottle or unleashed a hurricane. Trump storms off to his dressing room, muttering about ingratitude and the liberal elite, while Ferguson sips water, chuckling to himself about the absurdity of it all. The audience mills about during the break, buzzing with theories. So was it scripted, spontaneous genius, or the inevitable clash of two outsized personalities? When the show resumes, the tension is thicker than fog over the Firth of Forth, and Ferguson, sensing the mood, eases back in with a self-deprecating bit about his own failed business ventures, drawing the crowd back into his orbit. But Trump, returning with a scowl etched deeper than canyons, isn't done. His response is now laced with barbs aimed squarely at the host, questioning Ferguson's credentials, his accent, even his choice of tartan. It's personal now, a grudge match disguised as conversation, and the viewers at home lean closer to their screens, popcorn forgotten, hearts pounding in sync with the drama unfolding. Ferguson navigates it masterfully, his humor a shield and a sword, deflecting with wit while landing subtle jabs that sting. Trump's rage simmers, boils, then erupts again over a quip about hair products and foreign imports, his fist slamming the armrest with enough force to rattle the microphones. The exchange devolves into a symphony of interruptions, each man talking over the other, points flying like shrapnel, the audience a chorus of gasps and uneasy laughs. In this maelstrom, truths emerge: Trump's unyielding belief in his own narrative, Ferguson's commitment to unvarnished dialogue, and for a fleeting moment, late-night TV becomes a mirror to the nation's soul, reflecting the divides, the angers, the unbridgeable gaps. As the clock ticks toward wrap-up, the heat peaks, Trump's face a mask of apoplectic fury, his words a barrage that leaves no prisoner, while Ferguson, sweat beading on his brow but resolve unbroken, steers the ship toward shore with a final, disarming question about redemption and second chances. The answer hangs in the air, unanswered, as the credits roll, but the impact, eternal. This wasn't just an interview, it was a reckoning, a clash that would echo through headlines, memes, and late-night reruns for years to come. And as the studio empties, the crew applauds quietly, knowing they've witnessed history, flawed and furious, but gloriously alive. Fast forward to the heart of the melee, where the air in Studio 58 crackles with the scent of impending explosion, and Donald Trump's meticulously coiffed facade begins to crack under the relentless barrage of Craig Ferguson's inquisitive scalpel. The host, perched on his stool like a Highland warrior eyeing the English lines, has just lobbed a grenade disguised as a compliment to something about how Trump's empire reminds him of those old Roman aqueducts, grand but prone to leaking when the pressure builds. The audience titters, but Trump doesn't laugh, his eyes narrow, that signature squint turning predatory, and he leans in, microphone clutched like a gavel. "Craig, let me tell you something," he begins, his voice a gravelly rumble that silences the room. "I've built more things that last than you've had hot dinners back in Glasgow." It's a shot across the bow, laced with that Trumpian blend of folksy insult and unassailable confidence, and the crowd inhales collectively, sensing blood in the water. Ferguson, undeterred, his mustache twitching with suppressed mirth, fires back with a tale of his own, a botched puppet show in Edinburgh that ended in flames, literal and figurative, drawing parallels to Trump's casino bankruptcies with the subtlety of a sledgehammer wrapped in velvet. The mogul's cheeks flush a shade deeper than his signature tie, and he interrupts, words spilling forth in a cascade. "Bankruptcies? That's smart business, Craig. You Scots invented thrift, but I invented winning." The exchange accelerates, a verbal pinball machine pinging off bumpers of ego and anecdote, with Ferguson weaving in references to Trump's tabloid exploits, those juicy headlines about beauty queens and betrayals that make the National Enquirer look like The Economist. Trump parries with boasts of his ratings prowess on reality TV, claiming The Apprentice outshone even Ferguson's quirky late empire, a claim that elicits groans from the band and a raised eyebrow from the host. "Donald, love the show." Ferguson concedes with exaggerated sincerity, "But let's be honest, your boardroom's got more drama than my divorce, and that's saying something." The audience erupts in laughter, a release valve hissing steam from the building pressure, but Trump seizes it as provocation, his hand gesturing wildly, nearly toppling his water glass. Divorce? I know all about strong marriage as a 3 times stronger than most. He retorts, and the room teeters on the edge of chaos, chuckles mingling with coughs of discomfort. Undaunted, Ferguson pivots to politics, the third rail humming with danger, asking about Trump's flirtation with the presidency, his poll number surging like a bad stock tip. Trump lights up, transforming from defensive lion to alpha orator, extolling the virtues of his wall, his deals, his unbeatable art of the deal that would make America great again. But Ferguson, with the timing of a stand-up vet, undercuts it with a query on immigration, framing it through the lens of his own immigrant journey from Scotland to stardom, his eyes soft but probing. You talk tough on borders, Don, but didn't you hire half of Mexico to build those hotels? The question lands like a whoopee cushion under a throne, and Trump's response is volcanica erupting in a defense of American jobs, laced with anecdotes of disloyal workers and shady subcontractors, his volume cranking to 11. Veins mapping his temples like fault lines before an quake. The audience leans forward, transfixed, as the host counters with empathy wrapped in irony, sharing a story of his father's factory closing under Thatcher, drawing a line from Glasgow shipyards to Atlantic City's ruins. It's a masterstroke, humanizing the abstract. But Trump, sensing vulnerability, pounces. Your dad was a loser in a losing system. I'm fixing the system. The words hang heavy, the laughter evaporating into stunned silence, and Ferguson pauses, the pause stretching like taffy, before unleashing a torrent of his own, a passionate, profane in implication if not utterance, railing against the arrogance of empires built on broken backs. The exchange spirals, accusations flying like confetti at a funeral, a Trump calling out media puppets, Ferguson decrying billionaire blindness, and the studio pulses with the raw energy of unscripted truth. Jeff Peterson, the robotic skeleton sidekick, beeps awkwardly from the wings, a comic relief that falls flat amid the fray. As commercials loom, Trump's rage manifests physically, his chair scraping back as he gestures emphatically, nearly rising to his full height, a tower of indignation against the seated Scot. Ferguson matches it with verbal agility, his accent rolling like thunder over hills, refusing to yield ground. The break arrives like mercy, the host calling for applause that feels obligatory, the guest stalking off with a nod that's more grimace than grace. In the interlude, the crew buzzes with a "Yeah, did he just go there?" While viewers flood social media, tweets exploding like fireworks. #Trump vs. Ferguson trending before the second half even airs. Returning, the tension is a living thing, coiling tighter as Ferguson opens with a light bit on his cat, Sid, but Trump interrupts, steering back to grievances with the ferocity of a man scorned. The heat reignites over trade deals, tariffs, and tall tales, each man digging heels into their narrative dirt, the audience a jury delivering verdicts in gasps and guffaws. Ferguson's humor now has teeth, biting into Trump's bluster with lines like, "You're building walls, Donald, but who's gonna build the ladder for the little guy?" Trump's comeback is a fusillade, decrying socialism and celebrities who meddle, his finger wagging like a metronome of madness. The climax builds as Ferguson challenges the Korea: is success measured in skyscrapers or souls? And Trump, pushed to the brink, unleashes a rant that shakes the foundations, words tumbling in a red-faced rush about fake news, failing hosts, and forgotten Scotland. It's primal, it's poetic in its fury, and as the segment closes, the air hums with aftermath, a battlefield strewn with shattered illusions and sparked insights. The credits roll to uneasy applause, but the echo lingers, a testament to television's power to provoke, to reveal, to rage against the dying light of decorum. Delving deeper into the vortex of verbal volleyball, where every service spiked with subtext and spin, Craig Ferguson and Donald Trump circle each other like gladiators in a tartan toga, the studio audience hanging on every syllable as if it's the last supper of civility. Ferguson's opening salvo in this round is a feint, a seemingly innocuous nod to Trump's love of Scotland. "Don, you've got a golf course up there that could host the apocalypse, but it's bait, pure and simple." Reeling in the tycoon for a hook about environmental impact and local protests, Trump bites hard, his response a whirlwind of vindication, permits, experts, beautiful land preserved under his visionary touch, delivered with the bombast of a man auctioning the moon. The crowd nods along at first, charmed by the familiarity, but Ferguson twists the knife gently, recounting a fictional, yet pointed, yarn of a Highland crofter displaced by a bunker, his delivery dripping with mock sympathy that borders on satire. "Craig, you're twisting facts like a pretzel in a kilt," Trump thunders, his tie askew now, a rare dishevelment betraying the inner turmoil, and the room erupts in a mix of cheers and cringes, the line between entertainment and altercation blurring like ink and rain. Undaunted, the host escalates, bringing up Trump's past endorsements of flip-flops from Democrat darling to Republican renegade with the casualness of discussing weather, but his eyes betray the challenge, loyalty, or opportunism. Trump counters with a litany of betrayals he's endured, from partners to politicians, his voice rising in operatic crescendo, painting himself as the ultimate victim of a rigged game. It's mesmerizing, this self-mythologizing, and Ferguson allows it to spool out before interjecting with a zinger about loyalty oaths and beauty pageants, eliciting howls that momentarily defuse the bomb. But the fuse relights swiftly when talk turns to Womena Trump's fortress of fame built on Miss Universe crowns. Ferguson's nod to his own rocky romantic road, and suddenly, it's personal again. Trump's defense a barrage of empowerment rhetoric undercut by Ferguson's wry observation on power dynamics that leave little room for equals. The audience shifts, women in the front row exchanging glances of solidarity and schadenfreude, as Trump's rage flares. His gestures broader, voice cracking on edges of exasperation. "I treat women better than any ask them." The plea hangs, vulnerable for a beat, before Ferguson softens, sharing a vulnerable aside about his sobriety and second chances, bridging the chasm with humanity. It's a pivot that stuns, turning foe to fellow traveler, and for a glorious interlude, they bond over battles won and lost, laughter genuine, barriers crumbling under shared scars. But late night demands drama, and drama delivers when Ferguson probes Trump's psyche. What drives the endless conquest, the insatiable hunger for more? Trump's answer is a soliloquy on winning as oxygen, losing as death, delivered with messianic fervor that mesmerizes and alarms. In equal measure, the host listens, nods, then strikes. "But Dawn, if you're always winning, who's keeping score for the rest of us?" The question detonates, Trump's face contorting in a mask of incredulity and ire, his retort a stream of consciousness rant on losers, media, and the mockery of meritocracy. Words fly elitist, has been, globalist, each a dart tipped with poison, the audience a sea of frozen faces, breaths held as the host absorbs, parries, thrusts back with tales of his own climb from obscurity, his accent a armor of authenticity. The exchange devolves into crosstalk, microphones catching fragments of fury. Trump's "You're fired," echoing his TV catchphrase, Ferguson's "Not tonight, I'm Scottish." A defiant riposte. The band, sensing anarchy, strikes up a tense underscore, but it's drowned by the din, the studio a cauldron bubbling over. As the producer's light flashes urgently, Ferguson wrests control with a toast to resilience, clinking glasses that don't quite meet, the moment teetering on reconciliation or rupture. Trump drains his water like whiskey, mutters something about tremendous nights, and the break swallows them whole. Backstage, aides hover like vultures. Ferguson unwinds with a fag and a quip to the crew, the air thick with "What the hell was that?" Returning, the second act opens with forced levity of Ferguson on his love of haggis, Trump on fast food feasts, but the undercurrent surges, every joke a potential landmine. Talk veers to legacy, Trump's vision of a Trump dynasty spanning generations, Ferguson's counter of fleeting fame and forgotten punchlines, and the rage reignites, Trump's fist clenching the desk edge till knuckles widen. "Legacy, I'll outlast your whole bloody network," he bellows, and the room recoils, laughter nervous, applause sparse. Ferguson, sweat slicked but steadfast, unleashes a monologue on impermanence, the hubris of monuments in sand, his words a poetic gut punch that leaves Trump sputtering, rage morphing to reflection in a blink. The climax crashes as accusations beckon fraud, folly, the follies of Fortunia, and in the din, a truth emerges, Two men, mirrors of ambition's double edge, raging not at each other, but at the reflections they fear. As lights fade, the applause swells genuine, a catharsis earned in fire, the script of the night etched indelibly in ether. Now, plunging into the eye of the emotional hurricane, where perspiration glistens on brows and pulses thunder in temples, Craig Ferguson's late show morphs into a psychological prize fight. Donald Trump, the heavyweight champ, swinging haymakers of hyperbole against the host's featherweight feints of finesse. The segment restarts post-break with Ferguson at the desk, papers shuffled like a magician's deck, launching into a monologue that weaves current events with personal peccadillos. But his eyes flick to Trump, inviting re-entry with a nod that's equal parts olive branch and gauntlet. The guest complies, settling with the wariness of a cat on hot tin, his opening gambit a deflection to say for sure as a real estate booms in Dubai, sky-high suites for sheiks. But Ferguson steers starboard, inquiring about the human element, the families uprooted for luxury high-rises. Trump's reply is tapestry of triumph, threads of jobs created, economies ignited, woven with the loom of his unshakable optimism. But cracks appear when pressed on evictions, his tone sharpening to scalpel's edge. Evictions, necessary for progress, Craig, like pruning a rosebush for bigger blooms, he declares, and the audience murmurs, a garden of skepticism sprouting. Ferguson waters it with a story from his radio days, gigs lost to corporate mergers, his voice laced with the lilt of lived loss, drawing parallels that sting like salt in wounds. Trump's counterpunch is swift, a jab at unions and welfare states, his free hand chopping air for emphasis, face flushing as if the spotlights are interrogators. The volley intensifies, Ferguson questioning the morality of profit over people, Trump defending it as the American dream distilled, their words intertwining like vines in a brawl. Laughter punctuates sporadically a quip about Ferguson's failed inventions versus Trump's foolproof formula, but it's brittle, masking the mounting magma. When the host broaches philanthropy, Trump's giving as grand as his gestures, the mogul swells with pride, citing millions to causes from hospitals to his own name-branded scholarships. But Ferguson probes deeper. Is it heart or PR? The accusation implicit ignites the powder keg, Trump's voice booming to arena levels, decrying skeptics and socialists, his chair rocking with the force of his fervor. I give more than you could dream, Craig. A tremendous, record-breaking. The room vibrates, the crew exchanging wide-eyed signals, as Ferguson retorts with tales of anonymous donors in comedy clubs, the quiet good that shuns spotlights. It's a philosophical face-off now. Ego versus empathy, the audience a captive congregation reciting amens and ahs in rhythm. Trump's rage manifests in repetition, phrases looping like broken records of "believe me, the best, nobody does it better," a mantra against the host's methodical dismantling. The heat peaks over a specific donation dodged, Trump's evasion met with Ferguson's arched brow and pointed follow-up, eliciting a tirade that spans tax codes to takedowns. His finger thrusting like a prosecutor's. Interruptions cascade, the interview a jazz improv gone rogue, horns blaring discord. Jeff chimes in with a beeped platitude, eliciting a rare chuckle from both, a truce in the tempest, but it's fleeting as Ferguson circles back to familiar Trump's brood of golden airs. The host's regrets over roads not taken and vulnerability flickers, rage receding like tide. Yet the wave crashes anew when politics rears. Trump's stump speech mini-version clashing with Ferguson's outsider's eye on empire building, words weaponized in a war of worlds. The audience, enraptured, applauds lines that resonate, boos those that repel, a democracy of decibels dictating flow. As time tightens, the rage reaches rhetorical zenith, Trump's soliloquy on betrayal a blistering broadside at ex-allies and errant employees. Ferguson interweaving counter-narratives of forgiveness in 12-step circles. It's cathartic, chaotic, the studio a confessional crossed with Colosseum, sweat and sincerity mingling in the air. The producer's cue cuts through like a guillotine. Ferguson rapping with a heartfelt hail to honesty, Trump nodding curtly, the unspoken truce a fragile filament. Post-show, the green room hums with debriefs, aides assuring their boss a viral victory. The host toasting the team with tales of tighter spots. Online, the frenzy builds, a clips dissected, debates detonated, The exchange a Rorschach of reactions from adoration to outrage. In this maelstrom, late night's magic manifests, not just laughs, but lightning rods for the zeitgeist, illuminating shadows where celebs and citizens collide. Trump's departure is a whirlwind of handshakes and half-threats. Ferguson's a wink to the wings, but the residue remains, a charged atmosphere awaiting the next spark. And spark it does in memory. This rant reborn in reels and recaps, a relic of when talk shows tamed titans, or at least tried, with all the fury of fallen gods.